Today's topic is mind-only contemplation. This is verses from Mahayana Sangreya by Bodhisattva Asanga. We want to untie our minds from impediments. This involves deep insight meditation, such as this mind-only meditation. So let's look at this verse. The concentrated Bodhisattva sees that the images are mind only. This concentrated Bodhisattva, which is someone who has deep meditation absorption, someone who is able to see the truth that everything is only false images created by this mind. In this structure, Bodhisattva Asanga delved deep into our alaya consciousness. This big storehouse contains all our karmic seeds. When the conditions are right, it will ripen into results. That's all the phenomena of this world. So everything is only creation by our mind. The three realms is created by our minds. Maya, Dharma originates from this mind. All circumstances are only perceptions from our mind. Nothing is real. It's only phantasm and magical delusion. We often use the metaphor, mistaking a rope for a snake in the darkness. When we see the snake and we are afraid, that's our false imagination. A bodhisattva in deep concentration will not see the snake. They will see it's only a rope. Us mundane, we might be in fear, not knowing that the snake never really existed. The snake can be our poverty, our sickness, our afflictions. A concentrated bodhisattva, he rejects the notion of the snake, knowing it's only a false image created by our consciousness. The notion of things have been expelled. He sees that only his mind exists. We're seeing the false image. It's only a magical delusion, a trick of the mind. In the consciousness-only school of Buddhism, we categorize everything in the Dharma world as the three nature. One is the fully conceptualized nature. That's all our deluded thinking, our wandering thoughts. Second is the other dependent nature. That's all the karma that we are experiencing in our lives right now. The third is the fully accomplished nature. That's our true suchness. The snake that we think exists is the fully conceptualized nature. If we can see that it is only a rope, that's the other dependent nature. On another level, if we can see that the rope is made out of different kind of thread, that's seeing the fully accomplished nature. The other example that we use is a dream. The plot in the dream is the other dependent nature. We are living the dream itself. That's the fully conceptualized nature. If we know it's only a dream, then that's a fully accomplished nature. It all depends on our wisdom. If we can see that the world is only a magical delusion, why should we be worried and caught up with everything that's going on in the world? Master Guangqing, he was out of the solitude up in the cave of the mountain. He came back to the temple, often just sat in the main hall and meditated. One day, all the donation in the donation box disappeared. Everybody thought he had stolen all the donation. But he was not moved at all by this circumstance. This has no bearing on his emotions. After a couple of weeks, people at the temple announced that they actually hid the money just to test the old monk's cultivation. Everybody started praising him. Again, Master Guangqing was not moved by the circumstance. When you are free from all discrimination of love and distaste, you are in the state of samadhi. This requires knowing that everything is made from the mind only and everything you see doesn't really exist. Now let's look at the third line. Abiding thus in inner mind, he knows that the object of perception does not exist. Then when the subject of perception as well does not exist, later he contacts the emptiness of non-perception. There are three things here. One is the object of perception. Two is the subject of perception. The third is the emptiness of non-perception. Our mind works in subject and object. We have object of perception such as the six sense objects of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and the Dharma. That's the object of our perception. The subject of perception is our six sense consciousnesses. Our eye consciousness, ear, nose, tongue, body, and mind. The mind always works in subject and object. That's how we think and have deluded thinking. But a bodhisattva, they dwell in their inner mind. They know the emptiness of all things, and they also know the object of perception and the subject of perception are all created by the mind. None of them really exists. He investigates even further to get to this reality. When we reach this level, at the end, we will see the emptiness of non-perception. The idea of non-perception or nothing existing also is expelled at the end. Therefore, there's no existence or non-existence. That's the original quiescent void. The essence of our mind is unfold. That's our true suchness. We call it the fully accomplished nature. As you can see, this mind-only meditation is in many steps of letting go. Seeing that all images are mind-only, seeing the object of perception does not exist, the subject does not exist. At the end, the emptiness of non-perception doesn't exist either. At the end, that's when we see the truth. How do we go into this insight meditation? It involves 4 investigation and 4 precise knowledges. The 4 investigation is to delve deep into these 4 concepts. The first is the name of all things. We give everything a name, such as fire. Fire is a name. It's also a thing. It has meaning. It has a self, nature, it's heat, it has temperature, and it has characteristics. We use it to burn. We need to investigate into these 4 qualities: the name, the thing, the self nature, the characteristics. When you delve deep into it, then you will realize their non-existence. Nothing really existed in the first place. It's all concept of the mind. For example, anger. We give it a name called anger. It is a thing, it is an emotion, it is an affliction. Then it has self-nature. The self-nature of anger is suffering. Because we sense suffering, we become upset. Its characteristics destroys our peace of mind. It destroys all our goodness. That's the meaning of anger. But when you delve deep into it, you will realize anger never really existed. And you can delve even further to see that this anger is only a concept of the mind. It has no real rising or ceasing. We can investigate. Before the anger ever existed, there was nothing. Because of a situation, we want to get angry, there was nothing either. And right now, when I'm angry, there's also nothing to be found. Lastly, when the anger subsides, there's also nothing. At the end, this affliction called anger never really rises. Therefore, letting it go is not a problem at all because it's only a concept of the mind. Investigate everything in this manner until you're very firm. The first two lines is when we have the 4 investigations. The last 2 lines is when we are so sure they're non-existent about these 4 things. It's called the 4 precise knowledges. When we are so sure, we have this deep concentration. Concentrate on the fact that it is merely mind only. Nothing really existed. We will gain this true wisdom and really see through things. The 4 investigations and the 4 precise knowledges, they are exactly the same thing. It just one goes into a deeper level. That is all. That is what we call meditative absorption. The further you go down, the further you let go, the further you see the emptiness of all things and the emptiness of the mind, you will see the truth. So at the end, you will see that the mind doesn't exist either, because the mind cannot see the mind. Just like a knife cannot cut itself. Eyes cannot see the eyes itself. At the end, you will let go the object and the subject. The mind itself doesn't exist. That's why it's the emptiness of non-perception. That's when we see the real truth. So if we can see this, we will not be concerned so much about what's going on in the world. Really let go of our attachments. That's when our Bodhisattva practice the 6 paramitas in real life. They have no attachment to the person that they're giving to this thing they're giving, and to themselves identify as a giver. When they are practicing patience, they don't have to say, I'm being patient or I'm having forbearance, because they don't even have this concept of tolerant, because all things, they are fabrication of the mind. That's when Bodhisattva, their mind is undivided and without perplexity. That's what we call deep meditative absorption. Go through these steps when we chant the name Amitabha. This will be true recitation of the Buddha's name. Take care of business and let it go. We don't keep anything in our mind, then we can chant Buddha's name single-mindedly. At the end of our lives, we can let go of all attachment, even to our family and loved ones, without any obstacles. Going to the Western Pure Land, that's when we can really be out of the 6th round of incarnation. Don't let everything be hung up in your mind. It does cause vexation for yourself. We do not want to be under the winds of others. Discard all distinction between good and bad. That's what we call mindlessness. It's not we are indifferent. It means we are letting go all our senses of discrimination. This is called true samadhi. It's called the mind-only contemplation in everyday life. Walking, standing, eating, sleeping, anything we do, we must know that it's all mind only. That way, the external circumstances will have no bearing on your emotion or your mind. So that's the class for today. Thank you for listening. Amitabha.